IT outsourcing, many people think it's just about technology, process, system, sales, and consulting, if you get the pun. Well, it involves a whole lot more. Today, we speak to Dato Praba Thiagarajah, CEO of the Basis Bay Group, to find out what it takes to be an entrepreneur. I'm Ben Ibrahim, and let's put on our learning hat as this is Entrepreneur. Welcome to Entrepreneur. You're with me, Ben Ibrahim. Today, we're talking to Dato Praba Thiagarajah, CEO of the Basis Bay Group. Dato, thank you very much for being with us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
No, it's not a problem. Thank you for making the time. We know how busy you are. But Dato, first question. Out of all the industries that you could have picked to run a business, why information technology?
One of the biggest, most sexiest industries I think one could be in would have to be the IT industry today. Almost everything we are doing is involving IT in one way or the other. And without a doubt, you're going to see in your industry, in the multimedia industry, it's amazing what's going on there. And I think I was very lucky to have the opportunity to move from where I was after I graduated to get into this space. And I think it's one of the nicest, and you know what you're seeing now is the tip of the iceberg.
Being the youngest, I was so busy with the first 3 going to school, I didn't send him to kindergarten. So when I took him to standard 1, he was put in a 3rd class. Then, that same year, in the first term he became 14. Then the 2nd term he became 4th. And the 3rd term he became the 1st in the standard. See, after his Form 6, we never asked him to go give tuition. He himself went. The same thing he did in the uni. When he was uni, after once he's out of uni, he didn't wait for his results. What he did, he looked around for a job, and straight away within a few days he got a job. He was employed already.
Now, Dato, you studied many qualifications. Did it really help get you where you are today?
I don't think I studied that many qualifications, to be honest. But I think I've done enough. And I've had enough, and I continue to study. I did a degree in physics. I did a postgraduate in computing and information systems. I did a couple of business papers. I did a BCM, business continuity exam. I did a couple of master's level business papers, mostly from abroad. And I must say the business papers, you know, studying economics, studying finance and things like that are a probable must for every entrepreneur. For every, you know, you don't need to have the qualifications as such. I don't think that's...
But the knowledge.
But the knowledge. But the business angle is typically lost if you're too passionate about technology or on technical details, if you like. Okay?
You want to be successful. You want to have a business. You want to enter into business, not government service and all things like me. I was a bit skeptic about it because I thought business is normally Chinese are the people there. And then for him to go into this type of thing, whether he can make it or not, you think what others can do, he also can do.
Now, you started this business in 1997, even though you registered in 95. Why during that time? Because Asian financial crisis.
Well, I worked in NEC as an engineer before, and then IBM as an engineer for a short while, and then I went off and partnered some guys and got into the business of trading computers. So very early on, the decision was made to get into some equity participation. You know, the truth be told, I couldn't become a sales guy. I had to wait a couple of years to become a sales guy in IBM. And so when I saw an opportunity to go out and try something on my own, I said this sounded really good. So we were already in a business which bought and sold new, used, pre-owned computers, if you like, from anywhere in the world. Despite the financial crisis, the regulatory requirements made it mandatory for financial institutes to have recovery sites. So it was the right time to get in, and we got in. So here's the bit that came in very handy for us, right? Because we tend to do better during a recession, because people look for alternative products than calling the proprietary vendors and saying, can you please buy, now I want to look for an alternative source. I need the same same capability, same power, etc. But I also need a better reduction in cost and greater efficiency. They did not borrow any money from anyone. I was very successful as a salesman, so I had a fair amount of money, and I had, by that time, when I was wanting to go on my own, the early years, of course, I had a partner, and that partner had a fair amount of funds, so he had that. But when we split, I was completely on my own. So I had to manage that. The big step was, I guess, whatever I had, I was willing to throw into the business. We managed to win a deal, a disaster recovery deal, with a couple of institutions. And you know, these contracts go for 3 years. So that funded the headcount that we employed, okay? And that funded the headcount. And then we needed a building to say that it was our own. If you're going to offer disaster recovery services, you can't come out and say you're renting this facility, and you needed to put gensets in it, you know, put a whole bunch of stuff inside it. So we were lucky enough to win a rental contract for some of our computers, which we then leased back as well, if you like. So we had a lease option. And that helped us with the capital required to do some of the renovations, etc.
But back to when you started the business, was there anything that you didn't factor in terms of overheads when you first started the business? Like an oversight, so to speak?
I think one of the oversights from financing or costing, we went abroad in 2000. We had an office in Hong Kong, Thailand, Singapore. I'd always wanted to be global. So the opportunity came and for us to go abroad, which I quickly did. But I think in hindsight, perhaps we should have managed that a little bit better, because we shouldn't have worked the same model that we did here in those countries. You know, we used locals. We had locals in each one of those countries, but the modeling of the business had to be a little bit different. What works in Malaysia doesn't necessarily work in Hong Kong, Thailand. There's a whole brand perception which is different. There's a whole bunch of issues in the way people
different
do business.
Strokes for different folks. Yeah?
Different strokes.
Now, Dato, during the time of setup, how did you manage to convince potential clients to take a punt with a local player like yourself instead of a multinational corporation?
As a young entrepreneur, one of the things I did was I formed a society called the Business Continuity Society. I was one of the first people in Southeast Asia to get a certification on from the Disaster Recovery Institute.
Accreditation?
Accreditation. We also had Bank Negara to come to the vendor side and audit them, because it's still very early in the game.
Right.
And they weren't relying on the institutions themselves to look out. So Bank Negara audited us and gave us, you know, full marks, and we were certified. Then came Y2K. We partaked in Singapore. This was a feather on our cap, because Monetary Authority of Singapore very rarely had consultants from Malaysia supporting institutions in Singapore, and we did some work for some banks on business continuity, and Y2K, the whole changeover, you know, that was a big thingy, and that helped.
There you have it. It's all about providing a good quality service. We're just going to take a short commercial break, but stick with us right here on Entrepreneur. When we come back from the commercial break, we're going to ask Dato how he managed to profit right here on Entrepreneur. Welcome back to Entrepreneur. You're with me, Ben Ibrahim. And if you're just joining us for the very first time, we're talking to Dato Praba Thiagarajah, CEO of the Basis Bay Group, an IT outsourcing company which started in Malaysia in 1996. Dato, that wasn't that long ago, but tell us about that period. Now, IT was so big back then. Was it very hard to stick to your core product? Because you could have so easily diversified.
No. I think diversifying in the early portion of our business never came to mind. But early in the game, you know, you're still building a product. So I think for many entrepreneurs, they won't get too, unless they're thinking really big from day one. Yeah? And you know, if you're in the technology space, you need to get good at what you're doing, and then you move on to do other things if you like, or fairly good. But we did take one or two steps strategically, you know, because we were providing IT services, and the software was just, applications was going all over the place. And in the whole country, MSE status, you must get IT, and let's build applications. So I jumped on the bandwagon as well and said, let's go. So I built a division that's built, wrote, and we eventually sold. We built an ERP. Yeah? To be honest, there was a lot of funds that went into it, but like everything else, you've got to recognize your market and who the players are. And in retrospect, if we were to do things differently, I would probably not have done that move. It would have been easier to partner someone who's really good at an ERP, engage in some angles which we and today we do that.
So Dato, tell us about your modus operandi of trying to attract new clients and retain new clients. Like once you've established the product, how do you get the client? How do you develop the client?
Customers have always been paramount to any business person. That's the most important thing. You can have the best products. If it doesn't reach them, it means nothing. You get into a customer, you try to find out their pain points and extend that bit. You'd want to get into what pains the customers most, and then figure out ways to support them. Because the way we've been building our customers is to get closer to key customers and ensure we can start a customer off as a non-key, if you like. When you say key, perhaps we're alluding to a profit margin, but all customers, as you might imagine, for entrepreneurs should be important, but they build up, right? Because some give you more. There's an 80-20 rule. You may get 30% or 20% of your profit margins or your business from, from 80% of your clients, which you probably focus but not so much, and then you might get 80% of your business from 20% of your clients, and those are the people you're going to focus on, and you're going to build better relationships with them.
In your line of work, Dato, in technology services, what would you say is the biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge is it is a dynamic space. It's a global industry. What was cool 3 years ago? I mean, look at the industry. You've got Facebook, Twitter, you've got Google today. Look at all the stuff that have gone on for a while. This industry is moving at a phenomenal space. And what's nice about it, I would say, is that people have the opportunity to take part in these changes. But what's really challenging is that one needs to keep abreast, very, very, very foresightful, and keep in line, because you could quite easily get lost with wanting to be like everybody else. And focus on, again, what your customers need and where they are going, and where would you like to take, and if there's a blue ocean somewhere, what is it for you, and what's the strategy? So you've got to plan this, and it's not something you can do, and you've got to keep focused.
He put expectation from the beginning. You know, the way it depends how you looking at it. You know, either it's high expectation or low expectation, but expectation is always there. He put the bar at the level that he think it is achievable, but he needs to give a bit of push. It's not that a comfortable target. So that is how people move. You know, you push a bit more, then you get a bit more from people. That's how I think.
You said it's very easy to get excited when you first start a business, and that's a challenge. How did you manage to overcome that challenge during that time? When we grew,
we needed to have what you call your bread and butter business, things that will keep your company and your cash flow alive. And as every entrepreneur knows, and every aspiring entrepreneur will find out, cash flow is a given must. So very early in the game, I guess I learned that lesson, that you need to manage your cash and essentially your growth that involves your cash, so you can make sure all your obligations are met. So I think I had always been very fixed to making sure that the clients that gave us an X amount of opportunity and stuff which we were trying on is something that was surplus and was strategic, if you like. So if you have surplus cash, and when we do have surplus budgets, we venture into new businesses to see how we do in that space and expand again, ensuring that it's not totally alien to what we already do.
Now, in your entrepreneurial career, you managed to partner up with Cisco, who's probably one of the biggest players in the industry. Just recapping the years, what does a company like Cisco look for in a player like yourself in terms of a partnership?
We are the distributor for pre-owned Cisco equipment as well. So it's recycled equipment, and that's very green. Mm-hmm. So that was nice, and it was exclusive, if you like. So while we always keep our distance, that we always want to give the customers what they need rather than what the proprietary vendors or partners might want to push towards them. And that's been really something that's worked for Basis Bay as well. Yeah? So Cisco was a bit of a different situation, because they always had and have a very strong green policy. Now, how much they thump it, how they're doing it, in which geographies, what they do is largely their strategy. But as an organization, we appreciate multinationals who are or who have green practices in place.
I don't know about you, but I'm truly inspired. But when I'm truly inspired, we just got to go for a very, very short commercial break. But stick with us here, right here on Entrepreneur, because when we come back, we're going to ask Dato about his approach to green technology. Stick with us, right here on Entrepreneur.
In running a data center, or you're creating a green data center, the most important part remains making it efficient in terms of from a power point of view, and that's basically what a data center does. And from a consumer or a customer of ours who runs off the data center, they're very conscious as to how much utility or power bills they are going to incur, or if we take on those bills, what are we going to charge them back in turn for that. There are other things that make it green, right? And to be frank with you, when I look back at all the green thoughts and green things that go into a data center, it's something that could have been adopted or practiced a great amount of years ago. And to a fair extent, as an entrepreneur who ran data centers and took up the cost himself, we've always been conscious about running an efficient one. So what we've done now, though, is gone on to do other things that make the whole infrastructure, because we built the building from the ground up. So we've made it more efficient with whatever we could get out of the industry. We made it, we put proper insulations to it. We put all the other stuff which one knows from traditional green buildings. Because when one talks about a green building, it's very easy to understand. But when one talks about a green data center, except for the power efficient part, there is this one other component which doesn't come out when someone builds a data center for you, which is a phased approach.
Dato, you seem to have a very strong appetite for success, a passion, charisma, and all of the above. But away from the office, what do you do to chill out and relax?
You need to celebrate achievement. So that's an important piece. So what do I do when I chill? I chill. Contrary to what a lot of people seem to think. And I ride a Harley. One of the first things I wanted to do was, in '97, I bought a Harley.
You love the speed? The need for speed?
Yeah, I kind of have that too. Yeah. That's there. So go-karting, and my little girl, she has a little bit of that. So I love go-karting and push that. I like fast cars, but the end game is beyond that. It's spending that, today it's different from when it used to be. I still try and get my sports in, not as good as, or not as much as I'd like to. I like sports a lot, and I used to play a fair amount of games. Today I do a bit of swimming, play squash with with some friends. And my daughter's picked it up now, and my son's coming in there too, so I spend some time with them on weekends. So the weekends I look forward to just like everybody else, and I keep that fairly sacrosanct, so I burn my weekdays are gone.
Now, you did say the entrepreneurship journey is a journey. Now, with the benefit of hindsight, how would you have done things better to maximize
Actually, there's not very much I could have done different.
Really?
Yeah, looking back, I might tweak a few things here and there, but there's nothing which I think, because if I wanted to hasten or speed certain things up, I probably could have, but it would have compromised some of my values. And I think the people in my organization too, our core values are integrity, sustainability, leadership. So we want to make sure that the integrity piece is always there. And never compromise. So I today feel very comfortable that I've taken this journey. Perhaps we could have sped up a few things and done a few things different, but nothing that would have been, which I look back and say, if only I'd done that, I'd only done this. There's lots of opportunities. The question of managing it and ensure, maybe going forward now, because I see a huge hockey stick curve. So I do want to see a whole bunch of people and want to take on, because we're in a very exciting space. It's tremendous growth opportunities with where we're at. We have offices in New York today. We have regional presence. The expansion potential for a company in our space, in our industry at this time is tremendous.
Really, yeah?
I think because of his knowledge, and then he would like to basically train his staff, and he indirectly lead a very good team. His passion for what he like in terms of business and IT basically is transferred to the employees.
Okay, that's our final question. What's your advice out there for all aspiring entrepreneurs?
My message, my single message will be think big, think global. Get away from any mindset of lebih kurang or maybe just there. Think great efficiency. And lastly, challenge the norm. Take a lead position.
Think big, think global, and don't be afraid to challenge the norm. That's the advice by Dato Praba Thiagarajah, CEO of the Basis Bay Group. I'm Ben Ibrahim, and this is Entrepreneur, and we'll catch you next week. Now, if you only had $10 in your wallet, what would you spend it on?
I've had situations where I've had nothing and gone to a toll booth operator, driving my 7 Series or whatever, if you like then, and not being able to pay for that. So if I had 10 ringgit, that's a lot. I could do a lot with that.
Favorite food?
Well, I think nasi lemak would be up there. You'd have, okay, one food would be nasi lemak. Char kway teow was also up there for me.
Okay. Now the wife calls you and says, "Where are you?" And you say, "I'll be home in 10 minutes," but you're still stuck in the office. Yeah. What's the excuse going to be when you get home?
Well, that's the nice part. She now understands, but she's beginning, yeah, those days she wouldn't ask me any questions. But she's fine. So she could use 10 minutes, I'll buy more time, I'll extend the 10 minutes, and I'll extend, and I'll make up for it when I get back.
So in Dato time, 10 minutes is?
No, 10 minutes. When I'm heading home, it's not 10 minutes. So it's a given. But there are times when I surprise them. So there are times when I make special effort to surprise them, and that works.